Welcome back. At Issue Today, Muslim teens talk about the challenges of growing up in Canada. The Canadian Council of Muslim Women have a long history of working with kids and teens. They even have a youth leader, Rizwan Mohammed, who coordinates programs for them. Welcome to the show, Rizwan.
Thanks for having me.
I want to start with the Toronto 18. What was your reaction when that case broke in the media?
Oh, shock. I think, growing up in Toronto and in the outskirts in the 80s and the 90s with the sort of the Gulf War that happened and things that happened in Afghanistan, just being a kid and seeing how other kids would talk, I knew that some of us, it was like pretty normal for me and my friends to say things that in retrospect would be completely inappropriate, but it was
like what?
Like just ridiculing Canadian politicians, ridiculing American politicians, just talking trash about armies and war and things like that.
Tell me a bit about some of the guys that were in the Toronto 18 and sort of some of the pressure, I guess, they faced being young and Muslim in Canada.
Well, I guess before I do that, I just to finish the thought earlier, that part of the thing was because it was normal like that, I thought radicalization wasn't something real. I didn't think that, this could actually be happening in Canada.
You just thought it was just some
I just thought it's some guys that, this is what people talk about when they're they've had too much sugar, they haven't rested enough. I mean, this is what, stupid kids talk about. And unfortunately, we all found out to our horror that some of these young people were very carefully and meticulously planning to use the things that they had been learning to harm others. And I was so angry. And I felt so powerless to do anything about it in some ways. I know people say, it's the Muslims that need to speak up more against young Muslims that are doing this, but it was almost like after 9/11 happened in my own neighborhood, I was walking, and I used to help out with the French class at my local elementary school while I was in high school. And so some of the kids in grade 7 and 8 knew me, and I was walking along, and one of them said, oh, I think it's so cool what your people did on 9/11.
Oh, my God.
And I just stopped, and I didn't know what to say. I was so furious. And I was like, doesn't this kid know me by now? Like, after a year, and I'm helping out, and that he would know that would not be something that I would be cool with. And one of the girls that was there noticed the expression on my face, and she's like, and she hit him, and she was like, she gave him a shove, and she was like, stupid, don't say things like that. But I think there was where a lot of us, after 9/11 especially, have been going through a traumatic time. And we're still not quite sure how to deal with some of the things that are happening in the community and what we should do about them.
What are some of the barriers that prevent young Muslims from becoming more involved, I guess, in Canadian society? Because that's sort of your job in some way at the Canadian Council of Muslim Women, is to involve young people. What are some of the barriers you face in doing that work?
I think a lot of kids growing up here, who were born here, who were growing up here, or who immigrated with their families when they were children, like 6, 7 years old, and then they went to school here from then on and became completely socialized in the public schools. One of the main pressures that they face is a lot of expectation from home about succeeding in school, becoming a professional, not getting distracted, right, by anything that won't help you in some kind of career, whether it's a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or whatever.
There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and it tends to be towards very narrow professional fields, narrow in the sense that there's 5 or 6 acceptable things you can do, and if you do anything else, like if you mention to your parents that you want to go into politics and be a politician and work like that, or if you want to be a filmmaker or something like that, even start a business independently. A lot of Muslim families, it seems like from my own experience, are uncomfortable with that and discourage the kids. And then, there's a lot of alienation that's happening in terms of young Muslim kids kind of looking around at sort of the mainstream and feeling like they don't know what their place is. And so what they start to do is when they feel like nothing belongs to them, they go off and try to do their own thing. So there's this kind of self-segregation that starts to happen. There's a lot of disillusionment too that they share with other young people. When we talk about getting involved, let's remember that nationally we have a problem with apathy and disengagement. There's a lot of youth who are really bright, but really sick of what's going on in the country, and they feel disillusioned and disenchanted with the way we organize ourselves politically, and even socially. There are things that so many people are dissatisfied with.
There's one group I want to quickly talk about, and that's Muslim Gear. It's this group of young people that have this clothing line for Muslims. We have a quick video from your website about that. Let's take a quick look at that now.
Gap, Guess, Tommy Hilfiger and Nike. We're used to all kinds of labels. But today let's try on something a little different. Muslim Gear. How does it look?
There's a few reasons why Muslim Gear was launched. It started a few years back, right after 9/11. A lot of Muslims, particularly the Muslim youth, were scared of showing their identity as Muslims. And some people, have changed their name from Muhammad to Mo. So Muslim Gear was started to help revive the identity of the Muslim youth. The second reason Muslim Gear was launched was to help build a company that has a good and noble cause.
We have our expressions or statements, which are the logos and designs on our shirts. But then we have the modesty.
Modesty in Islam is a very important part of our faith. So Muslim Gear has that intention to make clothing both stylish and also covers the modesty, both for men and women.
Like, it's very hard, especially for girls, to find modest clothing here. So it's stylish, but it's also like, the point is that it's available.
There weren't many Muslim producers of this type of clothing. The few that actually started were very upstarts. They're quick, create a few shirts, and the next thing you know, they're no longer in the business. When we made Muslim Gear, we said, I think people will come to this because they see there's a purpose behind it. I think they'll find the purpose very noble. One thing is that we don't make money off of this.
So the profits from Muslim Gear are spent in various things for Muslim youth. For example, we spend it on tournaments, inviting speakers, literature.
When people hear that, they sort of realize, whatever they buy, it's worth what they're paying for, because they're contributing a lot more than just wearing a t-shirt. They're contributing to a purpose, to helping people.
I love the idea behind Muslim Gear. Like, as much as I love the clothes are cool, I love the idea behind that it's youth soliciting the youth. It's youth saying, we're making these clothes for you.
Muslim Gear is all about expression, about statement.
Her t-shirt says hijab, repression, and liberation out the side. It's actually a very popular shirt.
Right now we're kind of mostly athletic wear and urban wear.
Muslim Gear sweatshirts, jogging pants, track pants.
They have some quite stylish hijabs, and they have these handy pins. They keep your hijab stuck together and you look stylish at all times.
What about people who would say that Muslim Gear separates Muslims from the rest of young people? How would you respond to that? Because they're going to dress differently than other young people.
Well, I think let's look at what they're dressing in. It's t-shirts, it's baseball hats,
toques,
toques. And the things that they're putting on them are just customized designs that other Muslim youth have made.
Right.
That are sort of inspired from some of the artistic traditions from maybe their heritage countries. But there's a lot of, there's English lettering. I mean, it's Latin letters, right? So I think, that's something to consider. And another thing to consider is it's not so strange that this should happen in our society, because we have precedent for it in things like FUBU, for us, by us. I mean, that's a clothing line that came out of the hip hop culture, you could say, right? And there are people like, even now, a gangster rapper can come along and develop a clothing line, and a successful actress can come along and develop a clothing line, but we get nervous about Muslim youth developing their own kind of style.
Interesting, yeah.
We kind of go, why are they doing that? Kind of thing.
What advice would you give to, say, a young Muslim person watching right now who wants to become more involved in their community, in their country?
Don't give in to the cynicism. Don't give in to the cynicism. Cynicism is not part of our faith or our tradition, if we want to look at it from that perspective. And really, in the end of the day, I think we all have to live with our choices. And for those of us that know and that know that there are things that ought to be changed for the better, for the common good, and yet we don't do anything about that, there's a pain that lingers. in our lives. And you know, we get bored with our jobs, we get bored with school, we get bored with our lives. And as long as we don't do something about what we know we ought to do something about, that pain won't go away. And I don't know if that makes any sense.
I think that's a good place to stop. Thank you
Thanks.
very much for your time today.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's it for this edition of At Issue for Teens. You can go to our website, ichannel.ca, to watch this entire show online. Just click on Video Demand and At Issue for Teens. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook and email your thoughts to comments@ichannel.ca. I'm Kevin O'Keefe. Thanks for watching.